Hello there. Welcome to the African Rights Talk podcast, a Center for Human Rights podcast series exploring a range of human rights issues through conversations with academics, practitioners, and activists. I am your host, Victoria Amechi. Let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of African Rights Talk. As I just explained earlier, behind the scenes, this is a podcast with the Center for Human Rights. We meet with practitioners in the fields of human rights and law. We meet with experts. We meet with activists to discuss ongoing issues. And today we're here, all of us, researchers, teachers, students, lawmakers, policymakers, stakeholders in general, are here to discuss, the African Caribbean partnership in terms of justice through reparations, right? And one of the things that intrigued me about your topic was the collaborative ways to achieve that justice. So I'm here with Takudzwa, and he presented on the collaborative ways in which Africa and the Caribbean could work together to achieve justice through demanding reparations as a means of moving forward. So Takudzwa, can you please tell us briefly, if you can, what is the thing that you do, the work that you do, and what has brought you here to South Africa to have this conversation?
Okay, thank you very much, Victoria.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Takudzwa Mharadze, like you've highlighted.
Yeah.
I'm a PhD student at the University of Johannesburg. Alongside that role, I'm a part-time lecturer, and I also do consultancy. That is what I can say I do full-time.
Okay, all right.
I do consultancy with NGOs on issues of climate change, but sometimes I try to stretch my mind, in fact, to focus on other issues. It may be education within the framework on monitoring and evaluation. So what brought me here, I saw this flighted advert at LinkedIn, which was flighted by the Center on Human Rights at the University of Pretoria. And I reached out and I found it was true. And I then submitted abstracts. I submitted, there were 6 thematic areas, and I did submit all 6 of them with the anticipation that one was going to sail through. And definitely I managed to be replied, and my theme titled Across the Atlantic, African Caribbean Shared Histories and Collaborative Pathways Towards Reparative Justice is the one that managed to sail through. Hence, that's why I'm here.
Perfect. That was good. That was good to hear. So we're here, and as the foundation of the African Union determined or deciding that this year is the year of reparations. We must fight towards to find justice through reparative measures. So how do you see the importance of connecting African and Caribbean struggles and history and histories for the fight of justice within a shared historical framework?
On that aspect, I think the coming up of African Union and the Caribbean together to actually deliberate on the way forward towards reparative justice and as well restitution through the restoration of human dignity for the people of African descent and African individuals. It's a great leap forward. Why? In the sense that it creates a single platform. It unites our voices, like I've highlighted in the conference, that as far as we are concerned, what we are doing is good, but we are doing it separately. And once we are divided, we are very weak.
That's true.
And I highlighted the issue of P.O. Lumumba, the Kenyan lawyer, and Arikana Chiwombori, former African Union ambassador to the USA. So at the end of the day, if you are speaking separately, you are not going to make it. Like I have also highlighted the coming up of Zimbabwe's independence. It was as a result of the united frontline states which are Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania, and others. They gave Zimbabwe the comfort it needed during such a difficult time. So in these difficult times, African Union and the Caribbean nations must come together, must speak with one voice, so as to have a great leap forward in demanding reparations, so as to achieve reparative justice. So at the end of the day, it's of greater importance. We have no choice rather than to unite. Because once we are united, we speak with one voice. And also remember, the African Union recently joined the G20 as a permanent member in 2024 when it was held in India. And that alone is also giving Africa a platform where we are going to speak with one voice once we joined with CARICOM and others.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning CARICOM. You mentioned CARICOM has led efforts to fight for the Caribbean in regards to reparations, and they've been successful in doing so and making the voices heard in that region. What are the things that we as a united African state can learn from this fight for this kind of reparative justice that the Caribbean has done? Yeah,
Africa has a lot to learn. And in this regard, in aspect of coming up with a framework, remember they've produced their 10-point plan as early as 2014. That alone speaks volumes. And we are behind time. We are behind time because this same team has been only actioned this year, but it was a recurring theme with also many declarations that were given in the Durban Convention of 2022 or 2023 on the issue of ending racism and so forth. So Africa learns a lot from the CARICOM initiative. The fact that they come up with a 10-point plan, it speaks volumes in this regard that they are united. They are united as the Caribbean nations. They are speaking with one voice. And also it has been made an issue in international forums. So Africa can also lead in coming up with the African Union framework on reparative justice and restoration. Yet, at the end of the day, we must be in a position to measure these two frameworks so as to be one. Remember, the people of African descent in the Caribbean are African, who were placed there as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, to work in plantations of white individuals, of colonial masters. So at the end of the day, we are one people, though divided by geography. So we must be in a position to develop our own framework, right, for those who are in Africa, and also to be in a position to marry these two so that it becomes one document.
That was perfect answer. Thank you for that. So we're here at this conference, it's very important, I think, dialogue that has to happen. Because it's time that we stop working in silos, like you said, like you highlighted. So what do you think, at this point, at this stage of this conference, what do you think the institution like the Center for Human Rights, the University of Pretoria, what have they done when it comes to the dialogue and to the conversations in transforming how we discuss these reparative issues of justice?
We are talking on reparative justice, but allow me to say that the University of Pretoria have also done justice in their part. They managed to bring on the table universities in the Caribbean islands, for example, the University of Bahamas, University of West Indies. They are all here, right? And they have managed also to reach out to multilateral institutions, the United Nations. We had a representative member, your African Union, not only the AU Commission, but also African Union Court of Human Rights, right? So the fact that they managed to bring all these people together on the table, they have done great justice in their capacity. And also, I myself, I came from Zimbabwe, my other colleagues came from United Kingdom, some as far as Nigeria, some as far as Ethiopia. It shows our diversity, our inclusivity, and also they should not stop here. They should continue holding these numerous summits. Remember, when few African nations gained their independence, they did not stop holding forums to mount up pressure, so that other countries can as well receive their independence. Look at what Ghana did. What Ghana did. It's actually the brand of what Pan-Africanism is. So at the end of the day, the University of Pretoria have done justice in bringing us here all together, and also I just realized that hosting such an event requires money. A lot of money is spent from food, from flights to shuttles, even to use this venue and everything. So we are very, very grateful for what the University of Pretoria have done. And I must be in a position to allude that they must not stop at this theme. They must be in a position to advance African human rights. Remember, other themes that recurred within the theme of African reparations were themes of human rights against women. How African women were used as childbearing machines to
perpetrate the continuity.
It's a continuity to bear children who were deemed to work also in future of these plantations. So they have done a great job, and we are very proud of such an institution in Africa.
All right. Thank you. That was a very, very elaborate and very beautiful remark. I heard one of those presenters, I think not just one, like 2 or 3, talk about how reparations are way beyond financial restitution or bringing people back to their financial capabilities before the slave trade. So what do you think reparations look like, would look like? You mentioned a 10-point agenda within African, framework. What do you think that would look like? That reparative justice framework in Africa. What would that look like?
Okay, before I speak in my capacity, the CARICOM 10-point plan gave something to do with health, education, their culture. Remember, there's also reparative justice in terms of culture on the artifacts that were stolen. For example, the portrait of Mono Mutapa that was stolen by Portugal, and also Zimbabwean artifacts, for example, the Zimbabwean beds. Others are stationed in Germany.
Michelle talked about her great-grandfather's head, and still in the British Museum.
And also some are in British museums. Remember the University of Timbuktu in Mali, the first university, which had artifacts it had kept. They were also taken. They are in Europe. So at the end of the day, for me, reparative justice means a lot. And also it means a lot to many people. But however, I want to zero in on other issues that I think are of greater importance. Remember, when a colleague of mine presented on the Mau Mau issue, the challenge that arises from such a situation, remember, these people were young in their generation. But now some of them are no longer available. So let's say if we're talking of financial reparative justice, to whom that money is going to be given. So I don't argue for financial transactions to address the issue of reparations. But there are many issues which include how climate change is being financed. Remember the COP 2024, above 300 billion was pledged. But that money does not help the grandmother in rural Africa. It's always find itself or its way in the hands of those who claim to focus on advocacy. But I would want to transform the thinking of others when they are going to listen to this interview. I think in respect of debt cancellation, it can also be a financial reparation of greater importance. Why? Because when we are saying debt must be cancelled for African countries, we are also including the debt that these colonial powers accumulated. And when we won our independence, they forced us to sign documents because we wanted our independence. And we pledged that we were going to pay for such loans they had taken. For example, Mugabe continued to pay what Smith had taken to fight the war. So if we are saying we are actually cancelling debt for African countries, we have provided a larger premium for these economies to grow. Why? Because remember, when we are looking for investment or when we are looking for loans, Africa cannot access cheap loans because of high risk premium, because of issues of failing actually to pay this debt. When we are talking of issues of debt cancellation, we are talking that the money, remember Africa spends more money in saving the loan rather than in actually paying the loan. So that money can as well be diverted to areas like education, which is underfunded, to health sector, to even social protection. Our elderly men in Africa are receiving peanuts, but they have worked for their generation. So for me to consider issues like debt cancellation impacts every African, even the unborn African children are impacted by such. So I would favor for the common good not to receive transaction. The Mau Mau people received money and it was 20 million pounds, which is fair and fine to them. But wasn't it good that Kenya could have actually advocated for something better, which is not financial transaction? Remember also some of the countries who are fighting for debt cancellation is a reparation method. They are being told what to use that money. On this framework, we are not going to be told what we are going to do. All we need is debt cancellation. Remember, the debt we are talking about is not only that these colonial powers left. We are talking the plunder, the continuous plunder, starting at least at the, some consider at the starting point of the transatlantic slave trade. But some may also say, let us consider from the period of the scrap of Africa and how Africa was colonized. So I will advocate for something that benefits the holistically that benefits even unborn children. Because if we remove debt is cancelled, right? We are saying those unborn children in Africa will also have to focus on other developmental challenges of their time, not of the time of their great-grandfathers.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Takudzwa.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, what you're looking forward to for day 2. And after day 2, what do you think the call of action would be like? Because I think France had said that at the end of the day, there's a second day of this conference, there will be some bit of like a call of action, memorandum to like see where we go from here. So what do you think, or what are you looking forward to for tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm also looking up for a fired up engagement from the panelists. And also after everything has been said and done, like what Professor Francis alluded, and you have also alluded the same. I think our call to action must be in a position of establishing a sort of a framework that must be submitted to the African Union. So that heads of state and government can as well deliberate on that. Remember, what we are doing is informing policy through evidence-based research. So at the end of the day, we must as well highlight key issues that have been elaborated by those who are voiceless. So in other words, we are becoming the voice of the voiceless by us coming up with a tentative framework that can be revised or be considered, or some sections of it be considered, so that at the end of the day, Africa can come up with something that is robust, that is holistic in nature, and as well not forgetting our collaborating action with CARICOM. One last thing, I would want to highlight the issue of education and also the issue of African allies. These are two issues I want to really stress some few points. On the issue of education, we must decolonize our education. Many people, many children in Africa are not going to school. Why? Because for many barriers, which include lack of teachers. Why? Because a teacher must be trained. A teacher is trained to teach in English, especially in British Africa. But many people have argued that we can as well teach our children in our local languages. This will actually become easy for even the government to actually train those teachers. Number one. Number two, on the issue of allies, African leaders must choose allies with wisdom. Why? Because in my understanding, I respect Africa's relationship with China, but China never advocated for Africa to become a member of G20. It was India. So we have to choose our allies strategically. Because sometimes some of the people we argue that are with us, they are not with us. They are after something else. So we must be in a position to be politically objective on what we really want. What do we really want as Africans? I think that is the main question that our leaders must grapple with after they received the deliberations that have been done in this conference.
All right. Thank you. That was one of the most perfect responses and interviews I've had so far. Thank you so much. And this was just like, I just met you today. Thank you. Thank you much. And I hope this is the first of many that we see discussions and you coming to have this discussions around these issues of reparative justice. So thank you for being part of this podcast.
Thank you very much.
You have just listened to the Africa Rights Talk podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channels, social media platforms such as Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for listening.